Okay, brilliant. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this little chat through for how we use Power BI reporting for KPIs. My name's Kieran Cresswell, for what it's worth. I'm the project and implementation manager at Esse. I also tend to focus quite a lot on the Power Systems and Power BI reporting as well. So have a little look through. So how can we use Power BI reporting for our KPIs and get started on that? First of all, for it, what do we use Power BI for? How does this relate to our KPIs as well? So what Power BI is a tool to connect and visualize any data using a unified, scalable platform in order to promote self-service and that enterprise business intelligence. What that means as well is it can work to combine reports of various outputs into a centralized dashboards. We know with a lot of organizations, data tends to be quite spread out depending on which departments potentially they come from. A lot of people will use Excel. A lot of people will use reports derived from systems through their CSV files. A lot of people will have, I suppose, their centralized data systems, which I want to pull stuff out from as well. We also want to use it to automate the live updating of reports as data sets change. So naturally, we don't want data coming in, a very manual task in order to update any of our measures, our dashboards, our reports, and then sending those ones out live. Instead, as the data changes, the reports and these dashboards can update along with it. And we'll have a bit of a look in for what the difference is between Power BI and Power BI, the desktop app and the online app as well. A little bit of a fire through. So what are the stages of a Power BI build? First and foremost, with any data exercise, how can we measure our KPIs? What KPIs do we, well, what are the KPIs that are important to us? And do we have the data available in order to report on these KPIs? We'll then move into the data part of it. So analyzing and editing the data in order for the system to allow for it to run automatically. We'll have a look at this in a bit more detail, but usually with a lot of data sets, they're built for people to read and understand. How a computer will read and understand data sets is different to how a person will. We'll then look at building what it means to build relationships between our points within our data, and also what DAX is. So DAX is the data analysis expression. You'll think of it more as your formulas you would use on Excel. Power BI just uses its own version of code writing. It's different computer language in order to set these up. We'll then look at how these relationships, DAX expressions, can be built out into reports through measures, and then we'll look at how those measures can be set up onto a dashboard. So we'll take a bit of a closer look towards it. So like with most things, you're going to find you're going to be getting your data. So for this example, we'll look at a few data sets using your spreadsheets. This tends to be where a lot of data will come from. Usually when you're looking at a data set used by an organization, you're going to have your titles, you're going to have a bit of spacing around. I know a lot of people usually like to stick in a little bit of spacing aside just to make things look a bit easier. Not necessarily ideal for computers to read it, but how will we then use this information? We're also going to have various information from different places. So for this example, let's look at the potential call logs for a customer service function. We're going to have a lot of our general information on this. But how do we capture further information further afield without having, let's say, a call log with every little scratch of information that we would potentially want to associate to those call logs? Then how do we want to relate those call logs to different functions in the organization, such as a repair team? So what you usually find with a lot of your data sets, you're going to have your general data that you're adding to constantly, that's feeding in. You're also going to have your more usual background information data set. So for this example, bit of a customer log. This is all just randomized data as well, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. So you're going to have a bit of information on this, but you also have your linking ID. So if you're a housing if you're a housing organization, you're likely going to have your customers in a certain area. They're going to be linked to locations. You're also going to want ideally to have your locations information in a certain place without having all of this in one centralized, one massive spreadsheet. That's going to terrify people, mostly because these locations data are probably going to be used by various departments within an organization, and so they're not going to want to have all their core logs on there as well. So how do we draw all this information in together in order to report on it? So this is where we can start looking into our Power BI. So this is the Power BI desktop dashboard with a little bit of works already done into it. But how would we get started? How we usually would, we would want to pull through our data. So you can see on the right hand side of the page, we have our current fields. So these are all different data sets that we want to use. So for the example I pulled together, I want to look at comparisons between a customer service function and a repairs function within a housing association. And so we want to pull through those multiple areas. On here, so this is our model log, and this is where we would set up relationships. So how you'd usually see a lot of your data tabs will be here. You'll usually set them up, and you will want to link these through to different areas within your organization. So, even though this might be done by a customer service function, this is going to have important repairs knowledge. So in order for a repairs team potentially to report on their KPIs, we're going to need some information from elsewhere in the organization as well. So this is why it's very important in order to have linking variables between your spreadsheet. So a couple of examples you can see on here. So within our customer log, we're able to link the customer IDs to the customer IDs picked up on call logs, and various other ones. Location IDs we're able to pick up from our locations log, and we're also going to see this in the call logs themselves. And it's going to be the same with our locations log. Our SOR codes are linked through to our repairs log in order for us to get costings going on. In order for that, maybe we want to be able to link this through to the number of calls coming through. So this is where we can have this group idea come together, and we can report through various different data sets from the organization. So what this means in practice is information that we might not have on a call log, we're able to build through. Potentially our CS operations, we're able to pull through some of that information in order to cross-analyze from the different spreadsheets themselves. The skill of Power BI comes with the changing of that data and the automated nature of it. So I want to take a quick look. What's my timer lies, just looking at the query editor. So this is how we will pick up our data that comes through in our very usual style. So as we saw on our spreadsheet before, that spreadsheets are usually built for people to read through and for that information to be derived out of it. What we don't want to do is have to clear that out to make a computer read it every single time. So through Power BI, what we're able to do is apply steps to spreadsheets that come in. So data can come in any form that we want it in, and we'll then set applied steps in order for the automated nature of it to go, okay, yep, in order to populate this data, in order to populate this dashboard, we are dragging information from a spreadsheet or a system in a certain location. Where is this information coming from? How do we navigate it to the correct place? And then what additional things do we want to do to it? Whether this means removing some of our top rows because this isn't picked up by data, and promoting our headers, just so we have our actual data set below and no titles or anything on it as well. Do we need to change any types? So is all the information being pulled through correctly? Is time identified as time? Numbers identified as duration, currencies identified as currencies? Do we have pivot tables potentially where we want to read that information? So we have things such as replacing the pivot tables and depivot is what it's called, or unpivot, in order to get the information in the style that the data wants. Once we're able to get that data into a style that the computer can recognize, we apply and close, and obviously this leads us onto our items on the right hand side. Once we've understood this data, we understand where it's coming from. What we want to do is then to create, pop into modeling here, new columns and new measures. So just a bit of example of this for you. Apologies, I just need to move you to the side. there a little bit. So in order to calculate our failure demands on our spreadsheets, what we'd want to do, we'll have a look for our data within our data set. So with the ticketing system this example is using, we do capture as calls come in, what calls we are picking up as value demand, which calls we're picking up as failure demand as well, in order to create that into a bit more of a measure. So maybe we want to know the percentages or the number of failure calls versus value calls that come in per month. What we end up doing is creating a new column, adds it onto the end of ours. So we're creating a column which gives us the ability to assign values to value demand or failure demand in order for us to count it. So in this example, our value demands are assigned as zeros, our failure demands are assigned as ones. Having done that, what that allows us to do through that is to use that in order to create a measure itself. So this, we have our failure demand measure. So this measure can be copied, pasted. If we want to use this for anyone using similar systems or similar styles, these formulas and that can all be saved in the background in order. So every time someone writes builds a new report or something, this isn't about having to write from scratch. The first thing everyone's going to have to do when they start setting up Power BI is getting your dates and setting up a bit of formulas around your dating, just to make sure that all fits in. And this isn't something we want to do every single time. So we try and reduce that from here, so you can copy and paste these measures. And best practice, have a bit of a central repository of any of these measures, just so we can use them again. And so what these allow us to do is to create visuals. Our visuals are created within the desktop app. You create what areas you want. So for this example, we want to track failure demand versus value demand as a function of time. What we do is we decide what sort of visual we want. What do we want on our x-axis? Do we want to use our formulas across for this? And then what do we want on our y-axis? So for our y-axis, we're using our failure demands on top of our value demands in order to create the output that we want to show it how we do. However, these things can change out, and there are additional changes that you can make, and you can make these changes as we move forward as well. Lots of different opportunities for these ones. You do have a lot of different visual types. You have a bit more geographical information. You have what they call it, longitude versus latitudes for any of these properties. We're able to build things. So the more information you have, the more key information you're able to build in as well. So whether you want to fill these in on maps, and whatever types of information you want. Do we want just little boxes where we can just tell us what is our averages going around and decide what we want out of this. Within these reporting functions, we've got a bit of time, we're able to sort of take a bit more of a deeper dive into things. So let's say we're looking at the range and average call length. So our minimum calls tend to be about a minute. Our maximum calls tend to be about 15 minutes. Our average is 5.48 across the entire board. But let's have a look. So what are our calls when it comes to where we're able to fix at first point resolution? These calls take on average a bit longer than the calls that don't. However, the range is a little bit out. So you're just able to look in with a bit more detail. Do you want to look at particular months or particular groups of months in this? You're able to just deep dive into that information a little bit more. Okay. So what this allows you to do when you're creating these reports, you're creating these measures, it will bring you down two routes effectively. What those two routes are: do I want to publish reports? Do I want to publish things into dashboards themselves? So having created all your measures, what you would do is you would publish this into the web app. So we'll take a little look out when we have a look at this. So that's the wrong one, unfortunately. There we go. So we move across to the Power BI web app in order to expand things out a little bit more. So what we can have with these things. So we're looking at the report that we do have. Just move people around a bit. So we pasted our example report. We have the items we want on this. What we can do at this point, we can share out certain reports to certain areas. So let's say we have the repairs function. We only particularly want to look at certain areas within that repairs function. So we can send off particular reports in certain areas. On top of that, we're also able going into your measures themselves, we're able to pin these into whatever dashboards we potentially want at the moment. So if we're building certain dashboards, we might want to pin these ones onto it. So we pin these on, and what this does is these builds the dashboard views that we might have. So these are going to be the sets of information that are going to be out a lot more. We're able to obviously move around all of this sort of stuff in order to do it to your best sort of example. So this is the sort of mode that's able to be seen on your phone. So if you want to have a little look on, you want to catch up on your KPIs, and you have a couple that are dedicated to certain people, and people are able to move these things around. Also ask some questions and get a bit of communication going on it as well. But on top of that, you mostly also have, apologies, dashboards on top, moving on to your dashboard and with your reports as well. In an order to move things around in there, and so you can have a bit of a deep dive into it when you are working on your dashboards as well. If you do want to have a bit of more of a look in, so let's say you're the manager of a team and you want to have a look at, okay, here is my count by octave, you're able to take a bit more of a deeper dive in. So clicking on your dashboard reports will bring you into your reporting function. So where the other parts of the area are for this. So you want to look at particular operative performance potentially. We can have a look at so looking forward to them, what are their average turnarounds, what portions of the job types are they getting, and how the KPIs will relate to them. So that's a bit of a brief run through of just what some of the capabilities are in Power BI and how you might want to get those things started and sort of getting that ball rolling. A lot of organizations are in that sort of point where they have a lot of the data, but they just don't quite understand that stepping stone between it. So it's very much about just understanding what data you have. When a lot of organizations will talk about measures, KPIs, and that it's very good to get that list of those measures and the KPIs, but just with a bit of understanding about, all right, how do we calculate these ones, and then where will we get that information from? We're able to build a better, more, in my opinion, a lot simpler suite of data sets for the organizations as well, because it can be far too often when we work in isolation, potentially, different teams having all of their own different data sets and holding them fairly close to their chest, you're going to end up with potentially lots of different ones. I've worked for places where they've had multiple locations, data sets between all the different departments, and does someone want to go through and validate that they're all the same ones and everyone's using that same information? So it's about collaborating with the organization for these bits of information. Then naturally you might have also your more board level strategic KPIs that are going to come in as well. So it's how do we build those into the system? The answer to that is if we're having our reports, we have our measures for our various teams, and that we're able to derive that up levels until we're able to capture that information at all levels and cross analyze between those reports. So I hope that gave you a little bit of a flavor. I mean, I could very much spend a day and a half talking about Power BI and all the different aspects of it and the different routes you can go down. I thought I'd give you a bit of a small example and a bit of cross-reference in between two teams that should, within organizations, work very, very closely together, and a lot of their measures rely on a lot of the other ones as well. Just to understand that one, but to show you that there is the capability of just working between these teams. We don't need a central, we don't need a data owner particularly, but if we're able to share sharing these data sets through through picking up SharePoint or Microsoft Teams pages as well, any of these communal data locations, or potentially your shared drives as well.
Is there anything that anyone wanted to recover, or any questions sort of based on Kieran's definitely going to be answering them, not me, but
when you're showing certain people, you don't want them to get into the back office data, so to speak. You don't want them to see the actual data sets. Is there a way of doing that in Power BI so they don't see all of that?
Yeah, so depending what the level of, I suppose, access is, so you're going to have your people who are going to be building your dashboards. Obviously, they're going to have to have oversight of the data sets as well. But anyone sort of in a position where they don't need to be digging in or performing with that data, they're only going to have access to the Power BI online stage, or they're going to be being shared to. So you sort of have those two different users in a sense. You're the viewers and then the builders, and it's only really going to be your builders who are going to have that detailed oversight into the desktop app, which allows for all the data transformation and query editing.
So you just direct them to the online dashboards, and they can play and
yeah, so they can dig deeper into the reports, provided they have access to. So if they have access to the measures on the dashboards, they'll have access to the associated reports to them, but they won't have details beneath that. I suppose they can look into those details, but using the measures available. In order to have a bit more detail, you'll sometimes have some of your measures are going to be more sort of, I guess, your bigger tables and that, and you're able to filter through, deep dive into them a little bit more. But so you can in the setup and design of a Power BI, you sort of allow for, all right, how much information do I want people to see? Do I want them to just see the visual for it, or do I want them to, let's say, get the detailed table information?
Sorry, I had connection problems at the start and the connection problems at the moment. So will you be able to share the video later on?
Yeah, we said we've recorded a video, so you'll be able to have a watch.
I'm having connection problems. So.
Brilliant. Any other questions from you guys?
When I was just having a play with Power BI, there's lots of templates, aren't there, that you can, there's lots of kind of KPI templates you can kind of take and use. Would you recommend doing that, or would you say build from scratch is?
So I prefer to build from scratch, but I think that's just a bit more of a preference, because I'm a bit of a sad person when it comes to data, and I very much like to understand it right from the beginning to the off. So I tend not to like leaving anything to chance in a bit. So I kind of like to set that up from the beginning. But one of the positives through those templates is you're able to create organizational templates as well, in order to align and standardize across the board. Obviously, you're going to have some areas where you're going to have potentially a BI team who will run and set up your Power BI, where those templates will help their team and colleagues. But also, if that devolves a bit more and you're going to have sort of BI functions within particular large teams, then you're able to share those templates across the organization as well. But for the Microsoft templates and that, I suppose they're the sort of things you can use, but I suppose I prefer not to. But you certainly can use it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'd say one big positive as well on the Power BI, and when it comes to those templates as well, is because of how this has been set up, and it very much is all right. Yeah, Microsoft have had guys, it's free. Go have a play on it. Go set up your reports if you want. If you want to start using this on a broad scale for an organization, then you're going to have to start paying £5 a person or something. So it allows to set a lot of these things up in the front end as well. And I mean, if you want to cheat around with it, these measures can all be copied and pasted elsewhere if need be. So if people do still want particular like flash reports or anything come through, you might have a bit. Depending on how people like their communications, a lot of people are going to like the idea. Oh, I can get this on my phone on the move. I can run through these dashboards. Perfect. There are still areas. Oh, okay, well, as part of our business, we like to use these flash reports for certain areas, but we still want to use these. But so it still allows us to use, because these are all Microsoft systems, it still allows us to move these ones across. We just lose some of our automation through not having, I suppose, the licenses set up for your people. And also there is a massive community around Power BI, and it's very much, I think you usually hear it from your computer programmers, usually the case of if anyone asks a computer programmer question, they'll go, oh, I'll look into that, and you just Google it and it tends to come up for most areas. So it's quite good with Power BI that there does seem to be that large community, because I suppose of the availability to organizations, given its price points and its integration with systems that most companies are using Windows anyway, right? So it integrates across very well.
Yeah, and it looks so lovely, doesn't it?
It does.
Compared to what we're used to.
There we go. Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, when you're going through the desktop app, it's very much half and half of, all right, I want to get my measures, my DAX all set up. And there's also, all right, visuals. Very much
Yeah.
50% of the screen space for it.
Yeah. I suppose that there is the danger as well of people just making completely bizarre correlations between unrelated stuff, isn't there? Because they can kind of
Absolutely.
play to their heart's content, and sometimes, yeah, that can go very badly wrong. So
Brilliant.
Good. Okay, well, if we've got no other questions, then we'll stop it there. And yeah, I mean, as always, with most of the stuff that we do, as Kieran has said, the video will go out, and you can access that through the practitioners forum online. And yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, Kieran's our in-house expert, so anything on BI will immediately be directed towards him. So
just email me directly.
Exactly. Probably best to email him directly, which again you'll have all that. So yeah, other than that, thank you for coming. And those who watch it online, thank you for watching. So
Okay, thank you.
all right.
Thank you. Bye.
thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.